Alright, so now we're going to talk about the picker and the slider. So first I gotta tell you something. If I go to the documentation right here, I'm reading the documentation of the version 059, and this just happened today, I believe, or maybe yesterday, because I was reading the documentation the day before and it was still 58. So they just upgraded one version, and this is gonna constantly happen to you when you work with React Native. Now, React Native, it's getting really popular, so they are always trying to make a better version. And it's good. It's good that they are trying to fix errors and make a better version. But every time they do it, maybe something works, maybe it doesn't work. So in this case, for example, if I go right now to maybe you're watching this in the future and you're running a different version, and that could be a problem because I'm teaching you everything that got to do with 58. So again, just make sure right now that maybe you're running 58, maybe you're going to watch this course. We are on March of 2019. So this is the second, I've told you before, this is the second version of the course, and I've had to upgrade this because from the version 56, I believe, to the 58, a lot of changes happened. So I had to kind of re-record everything, pretty much everything. Now I've checked the documentation of the 59. Not a lot of changes, not at all, just improvements with the performance and everything else. And what they did, they added React hooks. So we were using React and we had no chance to use React hooks, for example. So they just upgraded the React code, and not React Native, just React code. So I'm not going to use React hooks on this course because I pretty much have everything set up right here on the course. But of course, if you don't know React hooks, you can go to the optional part of this course, which it's kind of a basic introduction to React, and you're gonna learn about React hooks. Now we can do pretty much everything we want to without React hooks. All right, so don't worry about that. The version 59 just gets not a lot of updates, and as soon as we move forward through the versions of React Native, this is actually what's gonna happen. They're just gonna make minor upgrades. Before, with previous versions, since this React Native was really young, every time they make an upgrade, it's kind of a big upgrade. But right now, every time as we move forward through the versions, you're not going to get a lot of updates, I guess. Okay, so let's go back to our thing. We need to talk about picker and the slider. All right. So for now, I'm just going to go right here at the bottom. I'm just going to comment this out. We don't really need it. So I'm going to create a new component where we're going to do all this logic. And I'm going to call it picker. We're going to do a couple of things right here, but I'm just going to call it picker. So all right, on this one, we pretty much need the same logic. I just need to import. I don't need a button, I believe. Maybe text input. Maybe we don't really need it. And of course, we need to do everything else. So I'm going to go and create a class called picker. All right, just gonna open and close. And of course, we need to do the render. We need to do the return, and we're gonna return maybe a view with the text, just like we did before. So view and text saying hello. I'm gonna go at the bottom. I'm gonna copy this one so I don't have to type it again. All right, I'm gonna copy paste, and we are pretty much done. And I'm gonna say export default. There we go, and then picker. All right, I'm gonna comment this out so we don't get anything from there. And I'm gonna go to the app and just import the picker. So I'm gonna go at the top, and the usual stuff. So import picker from .source src. Now I could just make this behind the scenes, but I just want you to see everything I'm doing, because sometimes different courses, or maybe not at Udemy, different courses, they just show you some content they did behind the scenes, and sometimes it's a little bit confusing. So I just prefer to spend a little bit of time just showing you what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to go here and make a reference to picker, and we are pretty much done with this. Now if I go to the simulator, let's see if we get no errors. And okay, we get hello. That's what we want. So the picker, it's like the select on the web version. It's just like a select. So I'm going to go at the top and say I want to bring a picker. Now, of course, this is just like a select, but it works in a different way. So it's a little bit weird. So I'm going to say state, and I'm going to write something that says language. You could put whatever you want right here. And I'm going to say just English. You're going to see why we're going to use this in a second. So how can we use the picker? Well, first we need to, use the component picker, open and close. All right. And again, this one works like a select. So the picker, it's just like doing select right here. Pretty much the same idea. So I'm going to add some styles. I'm going to first add an inline style so I don't waste a lot of time going to the style sheet create. And I'm going to say just 100%. So if I just save this and run it, we get an error. So the picker needs the options. We just cannot do it just like this. So I'm going to go right here at the bottom and bring the options, right? So the options are picker, open and close, and then picker dot, and then item. And we can do a self-closing tag right here. So this is the way we add the options to the picker, and the item must be within capital I. Now the picker item needs at least two things. It needs a label, which is what's going to be rendering, it's going to render on that option. And this is like the value for a regular option. And I'm going to say Spanish. Spanish. And then the other thing is going to be the value. So the value is going to be what are we selecting, and again this one is just like the value for a regular option. So I'm going to say Spanish, and notice that I'm not doing the capital. And I'm just going to copy this, I'm going to go right here at the bottom, and this one is going to be English. And at the top, as value, I'm going to pass the same English, and I'm using the same notation, right? No comma case, no capital. It's pretty much the same. So if I save it and I reload the application, I get a different error because I'm pretty sure I made a mistake. So it's picker, then item. So this one looks good. Picker, let's see, maybe I made a mistake. Duplicate declaration of picker. All right, so of course, I'm using picker. It should be picker component. Just like this, component. So I'm bringing picker, and I'm defining the class with the same component we are bringing at the top. That's of course going to fail. So I'm going to reload the application. Sorry for that, and we can get it. And this is the default picker we get with iOS. So access the microphone. Why would you access the microphone? So I'm going to say okay, whatever. So I'm going to go to emulator. I'm going to reload the application, and now for the Android, we of course get the same logic, but it's a little bit different. So I'm going to say English. And English, and English, and that fails. So of course this is just like a regular input inside React. We need to manage this through our property, or maybe the state. So the picker takes a property called selected value. So the selected value is going to be whatever it is that you want to put. You could put a string if you want. But again, in real life, if you want to make it dynamic, you will need to handle it through a different thing. In this case, we have a language right here. So I'm going to say this the state, and then dot, and I'm going to use the language. So notice right here, the first option, it's Spanish. So if we reload the application, of course, we get Spanish. Now we have English. So if I reload it, we are going directly to English. So it will detect what is the selected value, the default one. Now the other important thing is, how to change it, because if I go to Spanish, it goes back to English. The selected value, it's, English. If I change it to Spanish, we need a way to tell the picker that now we just selected a different value. Right, so the way we get it's on value change. That's the property React Native gives us. So open and close. Now this one, it's a function. So I'm going to open the function way to do things, and just going to do this. All right. So what are we going to do? We can actually do it on a single line. So okay. So what do we need to do? Well, by default, when you change the picker will let you know what is the value that the user is selecting. And this one is the first argument on this function. So I'm going to call it item value. Now you get an additional one, which is the item index, the position, which is if it's the first one, the second one, or the third one, and so on. So in this case, I'm going to say this, that's set state. I'm going to do something simple. And I'm going to say that the language right now it's equal to whatever the user is selecting, so item value. And that way we just make a controlled component. So I'm going to go Spanish, English, and that works. Same thing with Android, English. If I select Spanish, that works. You know, really simple. Okay, so let me show you a couple of things. Let me just give you an example. Let's say that in your application, you have a profile, the profile of the user, and you want to add the date of birth of the user. And of course, the user will need to go through the day, through the month, and through the year. So by default, if I'm not going to do it, it's pretty simple to understand. You get a component, dedicated component for the date picker, and this happens on iOS. So you bring the date picker at the top, and this is the way it works. You just include the date picker, the date, and the on-date change. Works pretty much the same. And what you get the default date picker for iOS. Now for Android, you don't get anything. You don't get it. You will need to go this way to create 3 different pickers. Like you would do with a select on web. You do the day, select for the day, select for the month, select for the year. So that's the way it works. You get away, but not on a component. So let me show you. Right here we get the dedicated components from React Native. As we go at the top, we get APIs, and we get a date picker Android. And it's a little bit weird, Tried it, didn't really like it, and ended up using the pickers. So, there you go. I wouldn't use this one as well. I just much prefer do the picker. And if I want to do on iOS, I will just create a rule to target different platforms. We're going to talk about that later. All right, okay. So I want to talk about something else called slider. So let's go to the next one and do this.